message board or comment section on Instagram or YouTube or a Facebook group that's devoted to chefs in the industry, you'll know that there's always that one person who comes in at a really inopportune time and just interjects like, why are chefs so sensitive these days? And it's like collectively the group or the comment section or whatever, it's like a split, you know. There's the people that are like, yeah, it's like bullshit, because back in my day, you know, like the back in my day dinosaurs. And then there's the people on the other end that just kind of like roll their eyes and are like, are you fucking kidding me? Like this nonsense again? And I think it really needs to be explained for some of these people, right? So let's get into it. Why are chefs so sensitive? Well, for one, we're starting to realize collectively as an industry, especially the younger generation, that we are the modern day version of indentured servants. Think about it. We work 100 hours a week for virtually unlivable wages, you know? And the sad part about our industry is that the better the restaurant that you work at, the less money you make, because there's more competition for people that want to actually work there, so they know that they can keep their wages lower. And so you're in some of these like most amazing Michelin-starred fine dining restaurants, and the cooks are there making $11 an hour. Some of them are getting shift pay, you know? Maybe if you're lucky, you get $100 for the day. You know, I know when I first started my career, I was like 21 years old working as a line cook in New York City, and I was making $8 an hour at a place that was like a 5-star New York Times rated restaurant. And it's fucking bullshit, you know? And we get to the point where we're like, okay, so I have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my education and my learning. I've read countless books. I've stayed up, you know, day after day after day, putting thought and time and energy into my craft and my passion and creating these dishes that are amazing. And I'm getting so much positive praise for my food, but then you're treated like complete shit as a person by the industry that's, you know, lifting you up and exploiting your talents. And so why are we sensitive, right? Well, because chefs as a group are an incredibly passionate group of people, right? We have the ability to focus clearly on a goal, whether it's a flavor combination or a dish or a flawless dinner service or whatever it may be. We have the ability to focus and channel our focus into a passion, and we genuinely love what we do. But man, does our industry fucking suck, guys. And like, it's time to really, really take a hard look at it. Because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that you can have passion for your craft and also be critical of the industry that allows you to practice your craft, the industry that hires you, right? And right now, that's what a lot of us are trying to do by bringing up some of these issues. It's not to shit on the practice of being a cook, because being a cook is awesome. You know, we get to go into work every day and like play with food and make people happy and have that sort of instant gratification and make people's special celebrations even better and put smiles on people's faces. And that gives us purpose and meaning in our lives. But what we don't need to do is take the abuse that comes with it. And I think that's what this generation of cooks is doing right now, you know? And I think especially like the younger you get, the under 40 crowd right now is really starting to kind of wake up and realize like, okay, so there's a lot of really, really fucked up things that are happening in our industry right now, and that's actually not okay. And I think the older generation, the back in my day dinosaurs, as we're gonna call them, right, are having a hard time with this. And I have a theory on why. When you admit that what you've been doing for a long time is not working, it tends to depress you a lot, right? So if you're like, okay, I've been working for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever, on this one craft, and then you take a hard look at your life and you're like, what do I have to show for it? Sure, you've got like awards or accolades in your field, but you have no friends, you have no family, you have substance abuse or mental health issues, you have no friends outside of the industry, because the industry kind of bullies you into only being friends with your coworkers and people who get you, because after a while of working like this, people that are outside the industry start to kind of look at you like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why do you do the things that you do? And so you subconsciously start to push these people away because they're like, they don't get it, right? They don't get the passion that you're doing. But they're looking at you from a critical point of view, and they're asking you why you are not able to see everything, right? So I think it's important for us to realize that we can still be passionate about the craft of cooking without having to sit down and take the abuse of the industry. And that's really what we're trying to illustrate as a group, when we're talking about these things. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the photo that's been making the rounds on, like, I think it was on Reddit, and it was of the cook sitting on a garbage can in his uniform next to the oven eating his dinner, and there was like the comment section on that and everywhere that it was reposted was filled with stories of like, oh yeah, that's just like how it is. And then the people that aren't in the industry are like, wait a minute, cooks don't get breaks? And we're like, no, it's just how it is. But it's time to ask ourselves why. Why don't we deserve that? Why don't you deserve a break? Because that's the way that it's always been? Okay, but does that mean that's how it always should be? For a long time, people were killed for being gay. And then humanity was kind of like, actually, why does that matter? It's totally fine. Like, go ahead, you do you, And so now we're getting to a point where we accept that, like, people are people and people can be different, and that's okay. And that's what our industry needs to do right now, is we need to accept that, like, we're people. We're not just like cogs in a machine. We're not indentured servants anymore. And that's what we've become as an industry. And we need to be okay with the fact that things can change and we can still have passion for our craft. So why is the new generation of cooks so sensitive? Let's get into it, all right? Because this needs to be said. We're sensitive because we realize that we've spent, 5, 10, 15, 25 years, whatever, practicing a craft, and we're still being paid nearly minimum wage. The fuck is any of it for, right? So we're broke, and most of us are in debt, and then we're depressed about this, so we have these unhealthy coping mechanisms and habits, and then we realize that we don't have any friends outside of the industry, so our perspective on life gets super, super small. And the old way in the industry was basically saying that, no, this is how it is. You have to love the dirty, the nasty to make it as a chef. And we are seen as greedy or lazy for even bringing up the topic of fair pay and compensation. Like, I'm not even kidding. I've been in this industry for about 15 years now, and it took me until 2 years ago to finally start asking for what I'm worth, And I've worked in Michelin star places, I've been to the best of the best school, I have everything on paper that says I have a kick-ass resume and deserve to be paid a living wage. And yet still there was this overwhelming guilt when I asked for fair compensation. All day long we deal with micromanagement from these tyrannical, emotionally damaged, egotistical children that are running the kitchens and running the restaurants that we work in. And it's never-ending drama in restaurants. And when your life is chaos, this is kind of comforting, because you're like, all right, well, everybody else's life is just as fucked up as mine, so like, I'm good, But what does that do? That causes like a sort of arrested development in restaurants, especially the restaurant lifers. We just don't know how to interact in normal society. We don't have the clothing for it, we don't have the social skills for it, we don't have the interpersonal training for it, and so we become completely unable to escape the industry because we are on the fringes of society, We are the misfits. At some point in our careers, most of us tend to internalize the identity of being a chef, and we glorify these sorts of flagrant human rights violations and industry abuses and lack of basic human necessities, and we become this sort of like, I have a good friend and former coworker who calls it the crucified Christ complex. We become martyrs, and we become proud of the fact that we can do it, you know, we're like mentally tough and we can handle the stresses of the industry. But then after a couple of years, you start to take a hard look at your life and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I getting out of this? Because the longer that you're in an environment where you have no control over your life, where you're punished for suggesting a modification to a dish that's actually good, you know, your creativity is suppressed, you're taught to just be a robot, be a machine. Like, how many times have we said that in the industry? That's like an industry catchphrase, right? Be a machine. We're taught to suppress these things and focus on output. And then what happens? All of our reasons for enjoying what we do for a living go out the window. So we've got these industry dinosaurs that need to die, right? And those dinosaurs are being a martyr. You know, I'm sick of it. I'm sure you are too. We need to stop glorifying how much we work and how hard the hustle is. And we need to start realizing that that's not normal and it's not good, and we shouldn't have to do it, because there is a better way and there are other ways of operating that don't include being abused for your job. We need to stop allowing things like sexual harassment, verbal harassment. You know, we need to stop feeling guilty for having hobbies and friends and a life outside of the food industry. I'm sick of being belittled for asking for a day off or wanting to spend holidays with my family or the people that I love. I'm sick of having working off the clock be a standard, you know? Nobody should do that. Nobody should do that. If you're working for someone, you should be paid for the time that you're there. I'm sick of the unhealthy lifestyle, and I'm sick of seeing friends die, especially by their own hand. And it's not that you can't handle it. We can all handle it. We know this. We've all been there and we've all done it. The fact is, we shouldn't have to. It's not human, and it's an old thought model that needs to fucking die. So I'm asking you guys, what should we do about this? I have a lot of ideas, but feel free to share this video and start a discussion on your own page. You'd be amazed at how many people agree with you and with me. They're just too afraid to say it because nobody else has, because they're all afraid of being ostracized by the industry. Well, I don't care, so let's talk.